Look, bruh, all I'm doing is connecting the dots.
A work of art of the highest quality.
And what will you do with the big money?
But I guess I'll make a lot of money, so here I am.
Connect the dots, be clear.
But music was noise, and I thought art was bullshit.
I want to be an artist.
Oh.
I'm not a piece of art! Yes, bravo! I'm a peacock flying into a...
If money is all that you love, then that's what you'll receive.
It really was. It was a work of art.
It's not about money. It's about sending a message.
Hey, just look at that sky. It's a work of art. Ha, nature never knew colors like that.
A man can be an artist. And anything, food, whatever. It depends on how good he is at it. Creasy's art is death. He's about to paint his masterpiece. It's a work of art.
Make that money, get paid.
Man, this is gonna be a masterpiece.
Bothered to connect the dots.
This is an art gallery, my friend. And this is a piece of art.
Simply connecting the dots.
Yeah, well, money talks and bullshit walks, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, that's how much you know about art.
You can make a lot of money making movies like this.
You have to be a bit of a rebel to be an artist of any kind, I believe.
You're gonna make a lot of money, pal.
Only a highly suspicious paranoid cynic, or someone like me, with an eye for clues and patterns, could possibly connect the dots.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Connect Your Dots. I'm your host, Justin Stillmaker, the show where we dig into that fun topic of art and money. And if I'm being completely honest with you, I have had far too much coffee. So expect me to be a little more jittery than usual. I feel like I'm trying to tamp it down by drinking more beverages, but I'm just like amped up. So, which is great because we have an exciting, fun show. But let me take a little list to see if I can calm down. Okay, so first up, I've been wanting to talk about this. I mean, the strikes are still going on. There's lots of topics. But something that's been kind of weighing on me all summer is I want to talk about what the hell is going on at Reddit and kind of how this, to me, signals the end of the internet as we know it. So I don't know how familiar all of you are with the trajectory of Reddit. It's for a long time was just that weird place where you'd go and ask a question or dig too far into like making your home computer or solve a problem. And it was always, it's a bunch of weirdos, you know, like including myself as a weirdo. But at some point in the last 4 or 5 years, as Google's algorithm gets more and more corrupted and ad buys and people have figured out how to game the different systems, Reddit has become the most dominant search engine there is. It's the one left that people trust. They know they're not just getting served an ad. And again, that's that connection I'm always interested in. It's like we come for one thing and then money gets in. And so Reddit still had this like little bit of truth that we can all trust when people, because you know, the one thing about weirdos is they're not trying to make money off you on Reddit. They're just trying to tell you what they think. And like, it's up to you to parse it. And that honestly created a very honest internet experience. But of course, what's happening now is Reddit wants to go out as an IPO. They're changing some of the providers they work with. They're trying to force in ads. And a lot of the main people who use Reddit are quitting. There's a lot of companies that are looking to kind of like peel off different parts of it. And so Reddit to me is becoming this like reflective problem of the internet, which is like the stuff that works best is free. Reddit doesn't charge you anything, just like Internet Archive or Wikipedia. It gives you the best stuff. It gives you the most honest look. And then slowly they have to turn a gigantic profit. Because again, tech, a lot of these companies like, you know, aren't actually profitable. And so they're going to wreck this good thing they had. Once again, to me, it's like money gets involved and they have to find a way to make it insanely profitable instead of just running it at like, you know, cost or some, you know, some profit. It has to be, it's got to look sexy to investors. And so that's what's currently happening on Reddit is like people are starting to leave it, which is now pushing people back into other search engines, which aren't that great. And so you sort of have this mess of like car crash of collision of like all these different sites that no one trusts. We're all on the internet. No one trusts what they see. We don't believe anything. And meanwhile, AI is coming in the midst of all this to create even more chaos, right? And so as someone who's on the internet, who uses all the different tools, I just think it's really fascinating how it's starting to splinter. And so I'm old enough that I remember the internet when it first started, like, or not like the 80s, but like, you know, the night when like AOL Instant Messenger, message boards, Yahoo, GeoCities, like all these, like they all felt like Reddit. They all felt like these like little unexplored corners that didn't like sunlight, and you could find really interesting stuff and learn and gain. And then, of course, you know, the tech and all the money came in and it's changed. And now I'm kind of like, I think it's pivoting back. I think now everything you want on the internet's going to be behind a paywall, or it's going to be on someone's newsletter. It's going to be on a Substack. It's going to be some kind of gatekeeping for us to get it, which means we're not all sharing the same internet experience. And I think for a good last 15, 20 years, we've all been kind of sharing the same internet. We've all kind of like, this is the site. I go to Twitter. I go to TikTok. I go to Instagram, Facebook. It's this like place we all agree on. But now that like none of them can provide us what we want, and if Google can't even count on to provide actual solutions to your problems, everyone's going to go start looking for answers, and we're all going to be getting different answers, and create this like splintered secret internet, much like how it first started. And I don't know if that's good or bad. It's just certainly a thing that is beginning to happen that, like, to me, signals some kind of big change. And the fact that Reddit is going to change, to me, which is like one of the last bastions of like old internet, is now being corrupted by tech money. And like, there's a lot of benefits from this, right? Like, so like if the paywalls, and we actually have to pay for our content, that means writers can pay more, people can actually learn a wage on there. But I just don't fully believe that's going to happen. I think they're like, you know, I feel like there's going to be a lot more hucksters. AI really has took all the crypto and NFT bros and brought them in, and this is the new answer. There's the staggering amount of AI newsletters I get. They're asking me to sign up to learn how to use this tool and lose this tool. And so everyone's going to keep having these siloed internet experiences. And I think one of the best parts about the internet is it sort of brought us all together, right, to these kind of common knowledge centers. And now it's just being completely wrecked. And so, I mean, it had to happen. It's a fallout, but it's just like, I keep being reminded of how, like, in the early, like, you know, early 2010s, on how much like the internet was going to make everything great for artists, and like all these sites and all these writers, and everyone was able to produce content, and all these things were being put up. And then Facebook famously did this thing called pivot to video. And it's where they basically said, people want video. And by the way, we're selling video. They want more of it. And it turned out they didn't. And so they fired all these writers and were like, we're going to make videos. And it turns out everyone still just sort of wanted to read an article and not watch a video, a long explainer video. And so this like whole economy within the internet has been kind of wrecked. And I feel like we're still dealing with the fallout from that. We're still doing the fallout from crypto and NFTs. And now AI is in this mess. And I just think we're looking at the closing of the internet and like maybe the start of something newer and better, or back to the old where we all just kind of had our own like page and little corner of the internet universe. And so I wouldn't be Connect the Dots if I didn't talk about this, and it's been in my head for a while. So I was glad to finally get that off my chest. This is a terrible segue, but my next guest, Carl Evans, who's from the Hope for Us Network, is coming on here. And we are not going to talk about the internet. We're going to talk about action movies. So, Carl. Hey, buddy.
There's Carl. There's Carl. Okay. I realized I shut my own camera off. So
it's okay.
Howdy.
Hey, man. How's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. Okay. There's something I've always wanted to ask you, and I'm going to lead with that, which is, what is your job at... How would you define it? Because everyone's
how would I define myself?
Yeah, find your job within the Hope for Us network.
Founder and CEO of the organization, but I kind of am just the sort of grease monkey in the back, just kind of making sure the gears are turning and we're pushing the thing forward. We have a really amazing crew of people on the back end and people on the front end who do things like run their own shows. Thank you, Justin.
Mm-hmm.
And amazing people on the back end like Scott, our executive producer, and our creative director, Christina, and our development lead, Ben, who make sure the administrative and technical stuff is in order. So my role, if I'm lucky, because I have very talented people around us, is just some of the more finite administrative things, and then I guess knocking on doors. You talk about money, finding ways to put $1 in here and $1 in there without compromising our ethos and integrity.
So you're like the mascot. That's how I actually always think of you, because I always met Carl when I would go to Sip of Hope, the coffee shop kind of brought to you by Hope for Us Network to some degree. I never know the correct lingo of this, but I'd be there working, and I'm always when I'm writing, I'm always looking for an excuse not to write. So Carl was always, if he wasn't in a meeting, available to start chatting about anything. And I think that conversation was what led to this show on some level. Over the course of 5-6 years now, I'm here talking on the network about art and money. And so I guess that's how I got here, but how did you get into this?
Fortunately/unfortunately, I'm one of those people that's lived experience driven into mental health. I think you certainly don't have to have had a case history, or even just a casual history of mental health to be passionate about the subject, volunteer, or even work within an organization. Unfortunately, in my case, I'd experienced some adverse things as a child, and carried over into PTSD and concealment as I grew older, led to everything from attempts to take my own life to some pretty severe coping mechanisms and self-harming behaviors. So the treating, healing part was a journey that kind of started around the time I was around 24, 25, 26. And from high school forward, I'd always kind of been involved in doing things around helping people or connected to social type work without necessarily making the one-to-one correlation with mental health. But I had the privilege of, from volunteer level to working at a front desk kind of thing, to sort of climbing the ladders of getting involved in the mental health world in my early 20s. And the roles I've taken on over the last 10 or 15 years, almost exclusively in organizations that were started in Chicago, and a lot of, kind of grassroots kind of things that build into their own stuff. So that's kind of the journey.
You've had quite the, one of the things I've always liked about talking with you about this stuff and the kind of Hope for Us ethos is it's not so, what's the word I'm looking for? I want to say you're more than willing to talk about stuff that gets you through. I feel like a lot of times when you talk about depression, or it's there's this very this is what you should be doing, and it's you guys help me recognize stuff that that actually helps me, right? We both shared a pretty we both had kind of tumultuous childhoods. I had a very violent and dark childhood that I don't talk about very often, but through that, the one of the things I centered myself around was action movies and movies in general. That's how I became this movie person, was my life was constantly changing day to day. Movies, if you start and stop them, are always the same, right? And I just and I remember kind of talking about that with you, and I remember when we were talking about doing a show, and you were just talking about things you love is part of mental health. And I was I never thought of that, and was that something you just sort of developed over time, or is it just I think that's one of the cool things about Hope for Us is it's span, and it's not just a very one vertical about how to talk about mental health.
I think I sometimes take it for granted, or maybe it's a little bit of humble pie or whatever, but our approach and my approach that I've brought into the mental health field is somewhat somewhat innovative in its way, in that I do something specifically called proactive suicide prevention strategies. And what it is it's in my initial journey to get to stability, because there's no magic wand, there's no better. But in getting to stability, I went through a lot of the processes other people went through in terms of the institutional and clinological parts. This isn't being cynical. We're not just talking about the navigations of healthcare industry coverage, not coverage, affordability, but there's a lot of minutia once you're in, the trials and errors of finding a clinician. And again, aside from the financial realities and degradation of the capitalist society, if you're in a perfect world, a nationally health covered system, just because a clinician is qualified doesn't necessarily mean they're effective for you, even though they could be a good clinician. So there's a lot of trial and error and heartache that can happen in the perfect scenario, because the human mind is not a copy and paste situation. We can have the same clinical diagnosis, but how it manifests and impacts our quality of life will be drastically different. So what happened is, over the course of about 5 or 6 years, a bit of a scholar geek in me, I've been keeping journals since I was 8 years old, and I began to build a reverse engineered theory on the process of, well, why am I still alive? As opposed, as I'm going through and trying to figure out like what's going to be better for me and what works and doesn't work. And a lot of it started with the root causes of looking at what I kind of deduced as issues in the industry.
Yeah.
But then that began to step backwards into things that were happening even before you got to talking to a clinician. So proactive prevention isn't just about, oh, we're going to come in here and train LCPCs and hospitals how to do the job better. The bigger thing that I realized was learning the biggest obstacles to suicide prevention and mental health care don't even begin at the doorsteps of the hospital. They begin with the person alone in their room. And that was stigma. And understanding that one of the biggest things that we do, that I'll do with a clinician, a school, professional personnel, is you've got to reorient your mindset to what mental health is. You got to understand that mental health is not just your thoughts, feelings, and emotions. It's also your cognitive behaviors. In a traditional mental health education, the talk of depression and feelings is separate from the talk of dyslexia. Now, just moving really quickly to the end point of that is the fact that understanding that the mental health discussion is specifically about thoughts, feelings, and emotions in your cognitive process. All symptoms and signs of unwellness are communicated through self-expression, in the same way that human injuries in wellness is coughs and bleeding from a cut. Everything that's anything under the realm of our mental health, from dyslexia to clinical depression, is expressed from crying, laughing, singing to anger, and so on and so forth. So the self-expression platform became the critical foundation. And I didn't know that in the start, but as we built this up, the thing that I came back down to the core was, if you can embrace open self-expression and really think about what that means, you set up the pathway to communicate on wellness down the road.
That makes a lot of sense. And also just like, it also sort of like, one of the things I've also was going to ask you about is like, Hope for Us has this real connection to artists, I think, since as long as I've known about the program. And like, that makes sense now, like, cause like it's art is a self-expression, right? Like, and so like, it's important to like tie, like, there's an interest in tying those two together with you guys.
And that's something I'll warn, and our instructors will warn someone from day one, that you'll get sick of us saying the word stigma, but stigma rules everything around us, dollar bill, y'all. And nowadays, I also point out to folks that stigma is kind of like the force. And I don't mean kind of, I mean, really is. It's around us, through us, and it influences everything. So self-expression, even that is stigmatized, where someone hears self-expression and they minimize it to being, it is dancing, singing, painting. Okay, well, and they kind of treat that like it's a sort of an aloof kind of frivolous thing. But two things about that. One, self-expression has more forms. We talked about that. But two, there's nothing light and soft and frivolous about communicating your emotions through dancing, singing, painting, motion picture, etc. And that's just an easy place to see the way stigma can play out, is that somebody will be like, oh, that's, just silly. Like, what can be connected through a movie, for instance? Right. Look how dismissive somebody might be over Barbie, but someone could have a real cultural and existential and life-altering connection with that film.
Yeah, and like, I also think stuff like that. One of like my pet causes is to examine the bigger things with movies and TV that people love, and that are often dismissed, like, you know, Barbie, like, oh, it's just a movie to sell toys. And like, sure, you can hit it with that, but like the artist is probably up to more. And if you dig into it, you'll start to see that. And I think that's true in so many of the things that people love that are sort of like sometimes critically dismissed, or like they think of them as just pure entertainment or pure way to make it. But like, actually, there's a lot more self-expression going on in there the more you dig into it.
That's a good way to look at self-expression and the facets of mental health, is that on the objective side, Barbie, absolutely 1,000%, without being cynical, could have been an engineered thing for marketing because it's a toy company, and off it goes, and maybe it makes money and maybe it doesn't, or whatever.
Yeah.
That the director decided to put a layer behind it is great. But what if the film had just been a sort of maybe 2 seconds of thought were put into it and they cranked it out?
Yeah.
Could someone still find a connection to that? You know, if you think about lesser known, less celebrated, artistically celebrated films, does that rob someone of the ability to have a strong connection? You know what I mean? Like, think about what that means for mental health. Like, somebody says, Little Women, Greta Gerwig's Little Women really touched me and changed my life. People make, oh, okay. But even in like an artistic community, if I rolled up on you and said, Warriors of Virtue changed my perspective and saved my life, somebody would be like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like I mean, well, it's certainly like I think, well, and also like the way things can mean something to you that you're not even aware of, and then like, you know, like I haven't like I think the first Ninja Turtles movie is a masterpiece, but the second one I've never really had any interest in revisiting. But if you would ask 7-year-old me, that was the greatest movie ever, and so it carries this like power, and like it's also not lost on me that I gravitated to action movies as a way of like, oh, I'm having violence done to me. Let me love this thing where the guy, the hero, is the protector. Like, there's a protector built into those things, and I think that is like one of the things that like is inherent in action movies that people never grapple with. When they're like, "Oh, men just like these," and I'm like, we might be revealing more about ourselves by saying how much we like these.
And that's it's funny you bring up Ninja Turtles, because that's a particular. There's like a certain like nine celestial planets of orbit around things that are important to me, like from childhood. And that Ninja Turtles was a pretty big freaking deal for me. I mean, the Raph's character was probably one of the first times, because I'm just a shade over 5, and a lot of the things that were happening to me were starting to happen then. Yeah. And Raphael is the first time, pop culture, TV, whatever, that I felt a familiar to something. His anger, when he goes off by himself after losing the Psy in the start.
Yep, he can't process like his anger.
Yeah, 6-year-old me didn't have any technical real like connection. The only thing I knew is that the red bandana green guy, like I felt like I understood that. Damn it! Or well, I mean, he says that after Casey Jones. No, he says it in the in the sewer.
Yeah,
that phrase, I was like,
yeah, of course you were a Raphael guy. Like I was like, who is like I'm always like I have so many friends that are like, oh, Raphael's the best. Like I think it's just more revealing to my friend group than it is like in general, like all the other turtles. Because we all just want to be Michelangelo. Let's be honest.
See, I like Mikey, but no, I was always.
You're Raphael. So was I. Like Raphael was my dude. Like that's. But again, like it's that thing where it's like these things that we love. Like you might dismiss these things, but that doesn't mean they don't mean something and can protect. Like they, and so like I kind of like to dig into that stuff. And a lot of the conversations we would, and it changes for every generation, right? Like you know, as like I feel like you know, obviously you can't make someone who's 15 now like the Ninja Turtles movies from the 90s. Like that's I think like a bigger ask, but like in general, every generation searches out this stuff and there's always a connected trait. And I do think it is why like movies, like action movies kind of always keep reoccurring, because I think we all like, you know, let's face it, there's just a lot of people who want protection. And I think those movies kind of give you that.
Yeah,
but
I feel like I'm sorry,
go ahead. No. You.
No, I was going to say that I like the portability of instead of the action genre, because you know, yeah, you can go anywhere you want in horror and comedy and drama, But in action, there's a few set patterns that you can really, the way you can tell the same concept 50 different ways. So, the justice and, you've got the sort of propaganda version of it, the vigilante version of it. But like revenge films, the protection film, where even that, like who you're protecting against in terms of in terms of action, can dynamically change a lot about the film. Whether the protection you're doing is like you're protecting the small town, or you're protecting against a government, a crooked government, or you are the government protecting against a belligerent, or you know what I mean? That's kind of different dynamics. It's all about the villain.
Yeah, and the thing that's interesting is like they're super also the reason I'm interested in is because they are, for lack of a better term, problematic, because they are race coded, because the villains are and often I think these movies actually do better than what they're trying. I think all the best action movies kind of pull from that soup and are actually more probably on the liberal side. Like I have a long held belief that all the best action movies hate cops. Like James Cameron, Catherine Bigelow, The Matrix. It's just got there's always a scene where a ton of cops get shot. And while sure they often believe in the one good, there's still one good cop on the Batman. I've had a guest on my show, Colin Hudson, where we talked about how Batman sort of proves that the police are useless because they can't do the job they need to someone like this.
Yeah, I'm a little frustrated with some of the ways contemporary superficial takes on Batman are the billionaire beating up the poor people. A lot of the comic book Batman was kind of trying to navigate us more social justice friendly, but I don't blame him for the movies, but even the Nolan movies, the whole legacy with his family almost bankrupted themselves trying to do civil projects. So I sometimes
there's a snide version of it for sure where
the fanboy in me gets a little annoyed when the context gets washed out for just a topical quick discussion.
It's also again, I think particularly the Nolan. God, we're gonna go down this wormhole. I think the Nolan ones, because he tried to tether those more to this is exactly how the Batmobile would work, to a real reality. It forced all these questions that are not really important or inherent to the piece. I can't kill this one guy because I'll let 400 other people do. I'm none of the math makes any sense. You're I don't know. I feel you could just get it's just this is not what Batman is built for. And so that's also sort of what I like about action movies. You don't want to have this discussion in this, right? It's just
incidentally enough, the more you think about it, at least the Nolan Batman, my favorite Batman is Burton Batman.
Yeah,
but only because, or really just because I love Batman Returns. It's my favorite.
Best. Yeah, it's the best superhero movie. Yeah.
But if you think about it, the Nolan Batman, at least stays on the line of he's attacking Falcone and the bosses. The Burton Batman opens right up with he jams up a purse snatchers, two purse snatchers, which is kind of that's more consistent with the criticism of Batman's a vigilante fascist.
Yeah. And that's the thing. All these action movies are fantasy, and you can certainly in the end, when you list out a lot of your favorite action movies, there's very rarely a Clint Eastwood in them, right? Because those movies have a more I like Clint Eastwood, and I think Dirty Harry. You can't talk about the genre without talking about him. But there's a reason why his have been forgotten to time, and the other ones are more. It's it's firmly believed because Clint Eastwood was a conservative who loved cops, and so it has that more fascist ethos. Whatever, as long as I have the bigger gun, you're safe. And so again, all this stuff in action movies that I just can't I can't help myself thinking about.
And that's kind of an interesting thing too, is in a film. I mean, there's the whole not a film discussion of liking problematic films, because the Dirty Harry series is clearly a little bit of a masturbatory extension of a whole bunch of people who it's a 1970s. I don't want to paint the political persuasion, because it's more like a 1970s Archie Bunker kind of fetish. You know what I mean? That guy's not necessarily the foaming mouth racist, but he's kind of lot of women here, and it's a lot of brown people. You know what I mean?
It's
we recognize that now as bigoted, but like, he means well. But
I mean, but it's interesting because it's more sinister. So I'm gonna do a breakdown real fast of a movie. I think Die Hard is the best action movie like of all time, right? Like it's one of the best. He's human. There's a blue collarness to him. He's vulnerable, and like you can see where he borrowed it from. It's also a movie about a guy who's upset that his wife no longer uses his name, who went and became the breadwinner. And while he is able and goes to work for a Japanese company in 1988, which was like, if you were around, like everyone was concerned Japan was going to buy up America. And they found a way to let this blue collar guy go around a white collar building and completely destroy it, called Nakatomi Tower, without making him the bad guy. And that is one of the genius parts, is because I like the genius parts of Die Hard.
Who's his helpful, but not leader, but helpful major assistant in all this?
Oh yeah, the Family Matters own Reginald Bell Johnson. Like that's
the sprightly black guys, because Reggie plays the little.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Gets in there too. That's when the first time I heard somebody make that analysis, the angry white guy turns on the. I was almost really now wait a. Oh shit!
It's why it connects. Right. It's why I don't know if it like they were all. I think the director was aware of what he was doing a little bit, where he was like, "I see that." That's why they knew they had to have a European bad guy. It was the only that's like all the smart things inform the other thing. Where like, okay, we're gonna do this, but like we can't. The director's going, I don't want to make Dirty Harry, right? Which Dirty Harry would just have him blowing up the Japanese building and just like being the hero.
Well, and we kind of get it. We kind of It kind of the European, but it's the effete intellectual.
Yeah, no, that too. That exactly. Yeah, like
even like the bold or no the tanker bad guy like Carl.
Yeah.
He's like that nice turtleneck.
Oh yeah, Argyle. That was his character.
I don't know Argyle too. The techie, but I mean like the. Carl and the guy with the big strayer machine.
Yeah. That's
long
true.
hair, like the you know what I mean?
Really so it's
unpack it like
because they're for this they create all these interesting questions, and so like the question I wanted to ask you were starting to say it, and I think I cut you off is like, are watching action films good for your mental health? Like, what do you like? Should you be better off watching something softer or something?
I'm going to tell a really long-winded, but I'm trying to make it short.
Please do. We're trying to make it a good way. We're trying to get to an hour here.
It's a brutal paradox. So I forget the name of the game, but there was a parents monitoring council. It's not the people who censored records in the 80s, but there was another group that came out, and they were adjacent to the record censor people.
Yeah.
And it might have even been Brent Basel, but anyway, it was a parent council group, but they're more Christian based. And what they did is they did a review on TV, and it was real simple. They talked about the violence on TV, and like Miami Vice was like a chief suspect. And here's what they said. What they said was, we think it's immoral, but our biggest problem is that we don't think this is going to turn people satanic, which is what the music people overstep.
Right.
But we think this is going to desensitize people, which in their realities will then make it more normalized to tolerate things. And the pushback in the 80s from a sort of left-wing centric and progressive centric people was like, oh, this is Victorian civility BS from like the pre-60s. Get with it, folks. We're doing it. Okay. And the council was like complaining about G.I. Joe cartoons as much as, and Mr. Rogers, of course, by 1970 was worried about cowboy shows, black and white. So here's the thing. You can be desensitized by exposure, okay? And you can watch things that can create a toxic and deleterious effect on your internal well-being and misshape your attitudes, can kind of put a misshaping on your attitudes. That is just because it can, but that also isn't inevitable if your mindset is reinforced with other nutrients in content that you watch and just in life, touching grass kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So sure, is it good for your mental health? The way to look at taking in content is that it's not benign, but it's kind of like it's like tofu. It's gonna pick up. It's either gonna contribute in a negative way and pick up the flavors of negativity and hurt you, or it's gonna be something that just that you digest it and you move on with your life and it doesn't necessarily impact you. Why it does that is going to be of conditional factors that you brought in to the experience and not, the experience in and of itself.
That's a little bit how I feel too. Like, I just like, it's like there is a way where like you could read it all these things, but I just feel like if it's what energizes you or recalms you or like recenters, it's there's no reason
perceptually you will get desensitized. And here's one of my favorite things about film is the violence tolerance study, right? There were landmark moments in the depiction of violence. The two biggest ones early on, aside, I'm not talking about Cagney and the grapefruit, but like is Wild Bunch and the girl and guy, Warren Beatty.
Bonnie and Clyde.
Okay, two big moments. So the Wild Bunch was a new kind of bullet damage.
Like the real bloody and those movies are hugely.
Bonnie and Clyde, woman violence. Then you jump forward and you get to RoboCop, and the packet spray in RoboCop was a whole new standard.
Yeah.
Then you get to Saving Private Ryan. Those are like those three examples I gave are the landmark moments in violent depiction. Everything you can chart out like how violence is being depicted between those three films. So the Bonnie and Clyde Wild Bunch, RoboCop's.
The 80s excess was like,
Because you watch Beverly Hills Cop and 48 Hours and all those other films. That violence isn't anything like what you get with the packet spray and the meat.
And squibs and the flesh.
In RoboCop, that takes it to a whole other. And then obviously, we've never looked back after Private Ryan. There's not been anything, I can think of some smaller things, but they didn't night and day the industry.
That is a whole interesting, because like I think of like the John Wick movies, and those movies kill so many people that you just become really numb while watching the movie. I'm just like, this is the stuff I like love to think about with like action films and mental health. I'm like, so John Wick's the hero. He's killed 1,000 people probably between these 4 movies, easy. And it's just like, I feel like you might have I feel like if I killed 10 people, I'd be a little upset about it. It's just there's like.
Well, it's the full cartoonerization, right?
Right. Yeah. Like even the characters have to be pushed. We have to push to new extremes. And so, yeah, I
was gonna say, if the guys in John Wick died like they did in Coen Brothers films or something, you know what I mean? That would be
and you can make people feel it. Like I think like there's this movie I love from a few years ago called The Green Room, and it's like this punk rock band versus Nazis. Great movie. And there's a part where like this guy gets his arm stuck in a door and they're just like slicing it, and that was so painful and so terrifying that 6 years later I can still remember how awful and so it is a little bit on how you as an artist want to use that kind of violence. If you just want to shoot a bunch of random dudes with headshots, it's just like turn it into Call of Duty. You can. I mean, look at Call of Duty. It is just like Saving Private Ryan. Like it's just like they were like, how do we do this? Okay, so we're on mixed view. But before we get off of action movies, I wanted to ask, because I feel like we've talked about a lot of them, but like, what are some of your favorites?
Pretty set list for me is I'll go chronologically a little bit. It's not hierarchical.
Yeah.
So hands down, The Train.
The Burt Lancaster one.
Yeah, and I consider Third Man an action film too, but just as like brass and tags action.
Yeah.
Third Man is where it starts for me. That's almost my gold standard for film.
Yeah.
For action films. There's some other, I don't mind any of the westerns, but the Sergio Leone westerns are fun and everything. But then I'm a glutton into the 80s. Like
they're the best. Yeah.
And for me, it's as a hint, RoboCop is
best of all time.
RoboCop 1 and 2 to me is God bless. After that, I love The Last Action Hero, but that's that's whatever. But from pure action film standpoint, I think after RoboCop, Kung Fu Hustle is probably my other
you're laying out quite the action syllabus here. I think this any viewer, if they're like, hey, I kind of want to see how the action movie, all the films you've mentioned, I think are a really great watch the trajectory of action movies.
I think Lord knows we could throw a whole list together. I didn't make a list before, but these ones are just popping off the top of my head like that.
Yeah. That's what
and I never get these are the films I'll watch 1,000 times over and over again, right?
Yeah.
So kind of Loaded Weapon, which is comedy action, but I don't get tired. I hate the characters in it. I hate him, but I like Scotty Pilgrim also.
Oh yeah, that's a great movie.
And like I said, I talked about the Batmans, but no, that's kind of I'm sure I could make a more heady.
No, but I was curious what come off the top of your head.
RoboCop 1 and 2 and Unforgiven in that space, and then I don't know if it's action, but it's the only other 2 movies after Kung Fu Hustle that matter to me in this world is Dick Tracy and Who Framed Roger Rabbit. So.
God, those are so good.
That's my body.
Oh God, I just watched I feel like the one thing about love movies. There's just so many of them, and I thought I had seen all the ones in my era that I love, right? And then in the last 6 months, I've discovered 2 classics that no one had ever told. So I saw, for you, I'll recommend Stone Cold, starring Brian Bosworth as and Lance Henriksen.
Okay,
it is.
You mean the Boz, the football player?
Yes.
Okay.
It's excellent. It's made by an action stunt coordinator from the 60s and 70s. It's him directing, and the movie is just in fact, it's streaming on Amazon and stuff.
That's got to be early 90s, right?
It's 91, I think.
Oh, okay.
But it has the final act of the movie is basically the January 6th insurrection. It's a bunch of bikers invading state capitol. It's incredible. They fly a motorcycle into a helicopter. I'll go to bat for. And I just watched Raw Deal, the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie.
I was just about to talk about that. I'm like, if you want to do some deep dives.
Yeah. I'd never seen it. And he goes undercover. I had never seen it. I'd always seen Red Heat, which is the same year, but I'd never seen that one.
So if I had a college degree in movies, mine would be Chicago films.
Mm-hmm.
And let me tell you. Oh, and here's another action film that's a masterpiece. You probably already seen it. Raw Deal, which you couldn't see coming because it starts out in the boonies, that amazing Jeep Wrangler scene. And then it's when Chicago was getting all those price breaks, tax breaks, they basically pioneered tax breaks for filming.
Yeah.
You see them all through old Fulton Market.
Yeah.
Old underdeveloped Navy Pier before they refurbished it.
Yeah, there's that whole sequence,
But then Above the Law.
Oh yeah, above Andrew Davis. That one's great. No.
Steven Seagal.
No, but Andrew Davis is the director.
Okay.
Who did The Fugitive. He's from Chicago.
Which in The Fugitive, that's forget about it. And the Red Heat you mentioned.
Yeah. So Raw Deal was just great because it's closer to the Commando line where it's the movie's sort of aware what it's. So Arnold goes undercover as an Italian, which in of itself is hilarious. And at some point towards the end, he drives around in a convertible playing Rolling Stones Satisfaction while shooting guys at a construction site. Yeah. And I was like, where I didn't have this movie my whole life. This is exactly what I want. And that's where you are killing people. You don't feel any of the violence. It's not like any of those movies you listed.
I don't know if it's an early one. It can't be early, or maybe it isn't early. He gets I'll Be Back in there, and he does the Terminator bit again with a pickup truck or with a tow truck.
He can't help himself. Okay. We're going to talk about action movies a little more with the subgenres, but first, I know we're finally going to get a Twitch show from you called Camp Carl. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
Yes. So Camp Carl is a very critical part of my well-being and mental health and life getting to a place had to do with a sleepaway summer camp that I had attended and become a counselor at. It's kind of one of the first places I felt a connection to helping other people. So one of the things about that place was that I found the Carl I liked and wanted to be. And a large feature of my early 20s was the struggles and trials and errors of making that Carl exist back in the real world and not just that bubble. So Camp Carl as a show is kind of taking the idea around that theme of working through destigmatizing. It's combating about judgment and destigmatizing and talking about the things that fulfill us and what it took to follow our journey to the thing that fulfills us, your career choice, professional choice, whatever. So Camp Carl is just sitting around a little bit of the digital campfire, talking about what we love and what we're passionate about. And then I've got a little bit of some non sequitur segments, to tell stories around the campfire. And it's everything from movie chats to music to pop culture and a few segments like Consider This, where I'm just going to babble about some socio-political thoughts that I want to share with people.
Yeah, that's the top of my show. That sounds great. I want to be around the campfire for sure. I'm excited. Also, just I think there needs to be more of you because you're such an important part of this, but you're always wanting to be in the background a little more, and it's fun to see you get forced to the front. So we're gonna go from action movies to my subgenre topic of the week, and this week's is Taken knockoffs. So, the whole point of the subgenre is kind of, examining how one hit kind of creates this waterfall effect where there's all these different films that kind of follow pursuit, right? And so I don't know if you remember the first Taken, the Liam Neeson, it had the great trailer. I have a man of many skills. It's that movie made so much money. I think that reinvigorated the action genre. I don't know if they're pretty toxic, some of the later sequels, which we're going to get to here. But the first Taken is one of the true old man kick-ass movies that then start to, I think, the next decade. That comes out in 2008. Are you a fan of Taken or Liam Neeson?
Oh, I paid to see it.
Yeah. It delivered. I did not see any of the other sequels in theaters. But the first Taken, I think, is a good action. It reminded me of there's these periods where that's right around when the superhero stuff is really starting to take off and explode. And I think the Taken movies were no, I still want to watch, old action movies. It was I feel a real interesting fight. And so without the Taken movie, you don't get my actual true favorite old man kicks ass movie, which is The Equalizers with Denzel Washington. That is, Equalizer happens because of Taken. There's no doubt in my mind. Yeah.
And I love Equalizer because I didn't actually see the first one when it came out for weeks, because there's a thing, especially in Black movie communities, about the phrases dying with your eyes open. Yeah. And without being a spoiler, it's especially frustrating in Black movie circles when a Black hero character basically goes and kills and sacrifices themselves for so basically Man on Fire, and Denzel has a few of those kind of
Safe House, Ryan Reynolds, right? Yeah.
Dying with your eyes open kind of thing. So anyway, that's what I thought Equalizer. I was man, just another one of those. But no, it's good.
I mean, I like that it was okay, how are we gonna top Taken? And it's just there's such movies for your dads in that and your uncles. It literally, the final sequence takes place in a Home Depot. I can't think of any more dad spot. They was just it's so well engineered. And the fact that Antoine Fuqua, who did Training Day, who is to me one of my favorite directors is Tony Scott, and I think he's a true descendant in that he kind of just wants to make good pulpy material that everyone's enjoys, that he brings a real visual edge to it, but not he's not enforcing his vision on it the same way. And I think he's unique. I don't know if you saw Equalizer 2, but that has a great 20-minute set piece at the end where they're in an abandoned beach town as a hurricane rolls in, and it's just it goes full Western at that point. And I think
loved it.
Yeah. And did you see what they're doing for Equalizer 3? That they're fixing the Man on Fire problem.
It apparently, I saw Fanning's in it, so I was oh. That's not an accident. You know what's funny is it made me think of Hitman.
Oh, interesting.
Italy and the farm.
Yeah. Oh, I can see that.
You know, but I mean, he's bald and no, this
yeah. It's like it's again like Taken reminded everyone what they wanted from action movies, and then Equalizer was like Denzel was like, hey, I need hits in between Fences and Macbeth, and so I'm gonna make sure everyone comes to the theater to see me. But I think
they bank too,
yeah, they make bank.
I'm glad you bring that back.
And like so, Taken again, a movie that's not going to be remembered through time. 20 from years now, we're not going to remember.
Oh, I don't know. I think you underestimate the power of. See, Taken also has like that other thing. You say old man thing, but Taken also is like there's a certain like wish fulfillment. Like it's a certain brand of like. Think of the very enthusiastic about their guns and self-defense person. Maybe if they're in America and like. Taken is like the wet treat, like
but like that. There's a new one every decade. Like right now, it's in theaters. Right now, it's called Sound of Thunder, or not Thunder, whatever that new like the religious
the child rescue,
the QAnon movie with Jim Caviezel. And the reason I mean it is like every decade they'll come out. Like Chuck Norris's movies are not going to remember the time. There are some ones I like, but like he's been forgotten. But the reason why Taken is important is because it gives us a franchise that will be remembered. There is no John Wick movies without Taken. John Wick is a Taken knockoff. There's no they were thinking sort of washed up action movie star. They were like fighting European baddies in different countries. Like it couldn't be more a descent. It's better. It's like way smarter and way better. But it is.
Are these so Taken?
Yeah.
See the thing. Well, no, because he's retired from his job. Is Taken the genre, or is this really more closer to like to loop in with your earlier comments?
Yeah.
Is this more like an extension of like Unforgiven, like the old samurai?
They all belong. Like you can trace it all the way back. But the key of this is that one movie comes and creates this like domino effect. So like those movies are always popular, but like Logan is one of those movies. It has nothing to do with Taken, but Taken, Equalizer, John Wick. I think are 1, 2, 3 of exactly this is going to make money because like they all come in order because like Equalizer comes out before John Wick. But I'm going to throw you a curveball. I don't know if you've seen this movie. You Were Never Really Here, the Joaquin Phoenix, Lynn Ramsey art film, but is very much a Taken movie. It is Joaquin Phoenix and is an action guy. I don't know if you can see the trailer kind of happening up in the corner. It's made by an art filmmaker, so it's a little interesting, but it's like a guy who's basically going around rescuing young girls from like an Epstein type society. Like it is clearly, I mean, look at the images. Like it is so totally a Taken movie, but it stars Joaquin Phoenix and art directors. And the only way they got a green light was because they're like, well, it's kind of like John Wick and like these movies.
Oh no, yeah, I see that. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's so exactly again, washed up, tired.
That wasn't Michael Caine. Who was it?
Oh, it's someone, yeah.
I totally get it. Like, this is hilarious. It's amazing.
It's a really good movie, too. And, like, there's, like, I'll give you examples. So, like, Taken, John Wick, he kills 1 billion people. At one point, he kills a guy in this movie, and the guy's just sort of dying in the kitchen, and he just lies down next to him because the guy's like, I don't want to die alone. And so, like, it kind of gets into the more arty. Lynn Ramsey's a phenomenal filmmaker. Highly recommend this one, but it is still kind of an action movie, and it only gets made because of Taken. Now, here's the part. This is the part I'm really excited for. So Taken comes out. Can I list how many action movies Liam Neeson does after Taken? This is incredible. So he does The Gray, which is not full action movie, but I'm going to count it. Walk Among the Tombstones, Nonstop, Run the Night, Taken 2 and 3, and The Unknown. And he basically plays the same character in all those movies. Like, he goes full Charles Bronson. I'm making the same movie over and over with a different name. Like, you might as well call these Liam Neeson's 4, 5, and 6. And some of them are better than others, too. So, like, Walk Among the Tombstones is really excellent. Nonstop is really good. There's, like, different directors.
I don't even think I remember these titles.
They were just, like, coming out, and they were all making money. Particularly, this starts the, like, old action guy overseas, and I feel like John Wick sort of like builds and escalates it and makes them into like real events. But Liam Neeson and his subgenre really launched this like whole thing, and I think will be like, because of Taken, kind of ridiculous, right-wingy, pulpy movie, we are able to get so much art out of it. And I think that's what, again, I love about that, like, art and money of business and movies. It's so clear.
That reminds me, I mean, I love that sort of, what would that be? The sort of, when you get that run of, the copycat, like you get Star Wars and then every studio like greenlights at the Saving Private Ryan and you get 10 other films.
Yeah. That's just how the movie business works. Like that's to me, like that's what this, like that's at least that's the thing I'm most fascinated
by. Like that dynamic, because like, I spent a weird amount of rabbit hole time.
Yeah.
Not more than 6 months ago, going down, unpacking like the Alamo, the horror movie.
Yeah.
And it ran back to after Private Ryan. There was like 8 different war films that got greenlighted. Alamo was like the last to make it out the gate, and there was like We Were Soldiers and
Letters from Iwo
Jima, Black Hawk Down, Letters. So what do you call that process of like, it's copycatting, but like
it to me is it's like the thing about film that I love is that it's the thing that makes it most difficult as an art form or to be taken seriously as an art form is more than any other form, it's tied to money. Like you can write a book without any money, you can make a song, but to make a big giant action movie, you need millions of dollars, right? And so they're always tied to something. Like the only way you, as someone is doing this right now, you can only convince someone to give you money if you can point to another thing. And the sleight of hand you have to do is still make your thing, but you got to sell them on the other thing. Like that, you were never really here. They were like, oh yeah, we just like Taken. I'm sure the producers were pissed, the ones who invested and thought they were getting a Taken movie.
Isn't that like James Cameron's Titanic pitch?
Yeah, like I mean, there's
how that story went, like
where it was just like, I mean, that man, like the famous pitch with him is him walking into the room for aliens and just writing a $sign next to alien.
That's what I was thinking of. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Aliens in the $sign. Yeah,
yeah. It's like because it's so tied, and because almost everything you sell has that. Like, there's very few directors who are just like, I have a completely outside the box idea that has no connection to other hits. Like even Steven Spielberg making West Side Story is tied to the fact that like The Greatest Showman on Earth came out in 2019 and made so much damn money, and like musicals were kind of and In the Heights and Hamilton, they were able to like pitch that. Like it even the high in Hollywood still have to adhere to this like copycatness, and so because of that, it makes it really fun to kind of study it, and that's why like. Well, I'm gonna call you want to stay on. I'm gonna run through the last little bit of the show here. So normally I do the next segment I do is called Who Won Art, and so this week I'm doing movies are back. Like movies won, man. Like it's as a movie guy, I can't tell you how pumped I've been since like Barbie and Oppenheimer are setting the world on fire with money. There's literally lines out the door at the movie theater near me on like a weeknight. That I can't think of the last time I saw it. Certainly pre-pandemic, but even then movies were kind of trending down. And so like they're winning, and like there's a good horror movie out called Talk to Me. Like it's right now it's just like the moment for movies, and I gotta celebrate it. So like that's why I'm saying they who won art, and like they're all finding ways to be original, right? Like you could look at Barbie and go, well, this is not an original, but Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach and everyone involved and Margot Robbie, who produced that movie, saw a chance to like sneak in more important, interesting stuff. Like, have you seen Oppenheimer or Barbie yet? Did you enjoy
I'm actually planning to see them.
You do Barbieheimer?
And I want to jump in on 2 little notes there. One, on the movie thing, one of the classical theaters in Chicago, the Music Box,
of course,
has had that exact thing been happening that has not been happening. They've had lineups, but this is like a 1970s film reel of Star Wars. Like the line, Southport and Music Box.
Yeah.
The line goes so long it almost goes down to the Walgreens.
Yeah, it goes there it's like past the coal fire. Yeah.
That's insane.
Music Box, great. My favorite place in Chicago, guys.
And the other thing I want to bring about that is that I think one of the cool things here is that I'm willing to bet that fascism as a definition is the merging of state and government, or business and government. I'm willing to wonder if, like, when you look at Barbie, I'm willing to wonder if that's like people being like, you know what? All right, fine. We're going to do this corporate thing. You want Mattel, you want this, but we're going to art the shit out of it. but we will accept that even on the face of it. Last year, everyone was like, this is such a stupid cash grab. It'll make money, but it's heartless and vacuous and bullshit.
And like it also proved like there's how everyone knows about like Disney families, the people who have their weddings at Disney. There's a lot of Mattel Barbie people like that. And I don't think they've been served something to show. And so, I mean, the question I'm asking myself as a movie person and as someone who works in this business is this. Are people actually interested in something a little more interesting right now, or is this a marketing blitz? Like Oppenheimer and Barbie really pushed you, or is this just like is the blitz or a blip, or is there something more? Because it seems like comic book movies are not faded; they're just like not number one. People are they're like still gonna make a ton of money.
Market saturation. I think it's the Jim Cornette rule that who's a pro wrestling guy, but he would tell a story about a really big, gigantic, flashy guy who sucks in the ring and a really talented guy who's, whatever. And he'd say, you could steal a house, that big walking goon, you could steal $1 million house, one show of them. But as soon as people see it, it's done. Whereas this other guy, you can draw every night and da-da-da. Yeah. The thing about Barbenheimer is that if it's the meme and marketing, it gets its box office win on week one. And maybe it's a 40%, 30% drop on week two, and then it's out the gate. This is clearly word of mouth, hands down. I mean, the second and third week drops were like sub 40%.
Not only that, like, is Oppenheimer going to be the highest grossing movie that never got to number one? Like, that's like the fun thing I've been trying to think about.
But what if it does? What if it switches out? I mean, the performance on these movies is pretty stupid. Like, I mean, I honestly, like, again, going back to it, the steam is not let up. I mean, if anyone, if I can't be the only geek who keeps an eye on Box Office Mojo and other, counters, and the momentum and velocity that ticket sales have for this, their weekday reports are stupid. Like, people are so attuned that the weekend hype is a thing that the weekday performance is crazy.
Hopefully the studios realize they have something and don't let the strike go on and capitalize, and people are like, oh, I kind of want to go see movies. I enjoyed that. And so, like, I hope there's I do think people are tired of being inside, and I think they want to go to a movie. And like, I have long held the belief that at home you have paralysis of choice, where if you pick a movie, you're there, you see it, it's over. And I think there's power to that, where it's like, should I watch Ozarks for the first time? Should I watch the new show everyone does? Should I watch a movie? And I think movie theaters, or at least, can narrow it down for you.
Well, and that's another thing about the business of movies. The one thing movies have always been able to do, even, there's, when people were talking about the movie's dead earlier this year, because of the MCU and DC bombs, is, you had the TV crisis of the late 50s, and then you had the inflation crisis of 81, which are the only two real comparables. People talk about other stuff, but there's only two business ones. And the one thing movies have always been able to be reliable is creating a social happening that you've got to be there with everyone else kind of experience. And I think that's what Barbenheimer, to your point about people want to get outside, that's part of it. But I think they want to get outside because they do the dressing in the pink and the da-da-da-da-da. I mean, this is that's building connection. That's a mental health thing. You know what I'm saying? That's
no, I think that's I think people were tired of discussing stuff that can't really be, like, you can't talk about Guardians and Galaxy the way you can have a discussion about Oppenheimer and Barbie, or the way you can't play act it. And like, I don't think like movies are fully back, but like this is good. This is a big blip, a good hope.
If the quality's there, this is sustainable. But that's the history of movies, right?
Right. So now I usually do a recommendation because we're running a little long. I'm going to skip one of them, Scott. I'm going to go right to Pee-wee's Playhouse. So R.I.P. Paul Rubens. I can't tell you how much Pee-wee's Big Adventure meant to me as a kid. My poor grandfather must have watched that movie from me 100 times. Then every other grandkid must have watched it 100 times. I think Pee-wee's Big Adventure is a perfect movie. Tim Burton's first, great score. Like, it's just a perfect movie. But like Pee-wee's Playhouse, did you used to watch the show, Carl?
Yes. Yeah.
It is way stranger and weirder. It's like an adult swim show for kids and adults. It had that vibe. Like I now watch it and be like, oh, my parents were stoned watching this with me. This is what was happening. And you have to buy them, or you can go on YouTube and all the episodes are up there for free. I don't know. Were you you were a Paul Rubens fan?
Yeah, the Big Adventure was, as a kid, there was maybe like 8 or 9 VHSs that were in my house.
Yeah,
we weren't fancy folks. So,
Same.
And on that rotation, Pee-wee's Big Adventure was probably worn out almost as much as some of the other things that we had, like a Little Rascals compilation tape. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, what were those other 8? We'll come back to Pee-wee. Because same thing. Like my grandparents had like 6 movies, and like 2 of them they got from buying a car.
So not including like there was a First Communion video, which I just digitized. There was Sound of Music.
Okay.
I said Pee-wee's Big Playhouse. Yeah. There was Sound of Music, Pee-wee's Big Playhouse, Hunt for Red October, Lady and the Tramp.
Good one.
Sword in the Stone, and then Mary Poppins.
Oh, my grandparents' house, the movies I got watched repeatedly were Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, the first Batman, and I think Back to the Future 2 they had for some reason, not the first one. And I want to say that they had A Perfect World, the Clint Eastwood movie. It was missing the opening crawl, but there was a TV. No, I don't know how it was bootleg, but it wasn't TV recorded Return of the Jedi, but it was a bad quality one. But anyway, but Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Yeah. A whole generation, the log in Final Destination, the log bus. Yeah.
There's a whole generation or a niche of a generation that Large Marge was there, like.
Yep. Terrifying moment. Yeah, like I used to me and my cousins were like afraid to watch it. Like we would always just like look away, and then like you finally like got a certain age, and we're like, I'm not scared of it.
Well, my sister, not trying to out her, one of my sisters, like the clowns, the hospital thing.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And that messed with me a little bit, but Large Marge has always got me the worst.
Yeah. So I highly recommend Pee-wee's Big Playhouse. I think it's a lot more fun. It's free on YouTube. It's super enjoyable, and you owe it to Paul Rubens because he's one of the true great weirdos who never stopped being awesome. So, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say maybe even go and try to MacGyver your own Paul Rubens film fest. Get Blues Brothers, Blow. Mystery Men.
Yep. Cheech and Chong. He's in one of the Cheech. He's in Up in Smoke. But no, it's also fast. So the TV show, I did a disservice here. It has Pee-wee. It has Phil Hartman was one of the writers and creators on it.
Amazing.
Elvira is on it. Lawrence Fishburne is on it. It's got so many it's just so fun, man. Watching it I watched a bunch last night with my wife, and it was just she had never seen it, and she was just this is ADHD come to life. She was overwhelmed by it, but in a really great way. She's like, oh, I get why people like this though. She was it
truly is a piece of amazing gonzo art,
Yeah, and it really combines a lot of stuff that was I was really enjoying it because I was I feel as the 80s have sort of been Stranger Thing, you just remember what those references are, what your shirt is. It has a way more Playhouse really kind of oh yeah, there was this whole other funky thing and cows and cowboys and the vintage automobile. There's all these other debris of the 80s that is very much on display, that ephemera that I think people may have forgotten about. And so again, give them 20 minutes. Just watch one episode. You'll be addicted. But well, that should wrap us up, Carl. Thank you so much for staying on and just being a guest. And this was awesome. I can't wait for Camp Carl to come out when it starts. I know I'll be one of the first guests, obviously. But thank you so much. Thanks everyone for watching, and I'll see you all in 2 weeks.
Thanks everyone.
Bye.
I'll see you later, huh?
Wait.
I'll see you later.
I bid you farewell and good luck, morons. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Then in the next episode,
Will take place 2 weeks from today.
Hey, that's all. I gotta go.